and welcome back to the Everything F1 podcast with Seán and Coops. And joining us this evening to review the Mexico City Grand Prix are James and Larry returning to the show. Evening, lads. James, how are you? Good to see you back.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. It's nice to see you, Sean. It's been a while. I'm happy to be back on the podcast, talk a bit of Formula One. Good race yesterday, so I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Certainly was. Definitely one to get into. Lots of talking points. I think it's fair to say we might have expected this one to be a bit dull. I know I certainly did because Mexico's not got a great track record, pun intended. But there's certainly plenty to talk about. And Larry, good to see you back again, mate. I know our clocks went back and yours didn't, so appreciate you coming on after that slight confusion. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I had to double check. Yeah, ours is next week. Anybody over here in the States with me? But yeah, no, it was a very exciting weekend and can't wait to talk about it.
Yes, it absolutely was. And Coops, any updates from your side? You got a haircut, I see, and you shaved your beard. You look different. I wasn't 100% sure it was you when you came on.
Got the haircut, got the whiskers trimmed. This is the reason why I have a beard, because although I'm 43, if I have a haircut, I look like I'm 12. So that's the whole reason of the beard. That ages me just enough that people take me sort of seriously, but really not. Other than that, I'm still Scottish. I'm still in Scotland. My football team got absolutely destroyed on Sunday. And other than that, the race was pretty good. Went up. Took the boys to see, for anyone in Scotland or anyone in the UK, I'm a Kilmarnock fan, we went to see them play against Rangers. First time that the boys had been to Ibrox and see the 55,000 seater stadium. It's one of the bigger ones in Scotland. And yeah, they were quite amazed. We lost 3-1. It wasn't the best performance in the world, but we ticked that off the list. Got the boys home and came back up the road just about an hour, half an hour before the race started. So it was a pretty good day for me yesterday. And then obviously back to reality and work today. So
Well, at least we get a good race to talk about. It'd be a little bit tougher after all that if we didn't have something good to chat about. From my point, today's a bank holiday for me, so this has been a lovely day. Apart from the weather, it's a bit miserable, but yeah, it's a nice bank holiday today. So yeah,
Unacceptable.
I won't rub that in too much more. We'll move on. We are, of course, Everything F1. You can check us out on all socials. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads at JoinEF1, or you'll find us on TikTok at EF1 Official. You can also check out our website, everythingf1.com, for daily news and articles about all things motorsport, not just Formula One. And in fact, if you head over there right now, you'll see our latest article relating to Formula E. Pascal Wehrlein fastest on day one of Formula E testing. So we really do cover everything on track at the moment. Head over to everythingf1.com for all of your motorsport news and articles. You can also head over to our YouTube channel, Everything F1, all one word, over on YouTube. Hit subscribe there to our channel and get involved with us there. We are still running our competition, our giveaway. As soon as we hit 500 subscribers, we'll be giving away a Lego Speed Champions F1 set. And all you have to do is subscribe. So head over to YouTube, Everything F1, all one word, and hit subscribe. Now then, let us get into the review of the Mexico City Grand Prix. And as I said, there is a lot to talk about in this one. And I'm going to start at the most important part, which is the championship. Because, as I said, that was the race that could have gone either way. And if you looked at purely the result from the winner, it was a very dull race from the cockpit of that McLaren. Lando Norris obviously won from pole, lights to flag, led every lap of the race. Very, very impressive. And he takes the championship lead by 1 point. Now, we'll get into how that could have swung a different way for him a little bit later on with some decisions made by the FIA one way or the other. But let's get straight into it. Coops, Lando, he's been on a good run of form lately. He said to Sky after the race that he didn't care about one good performance in one race didn't really matter, but he's happy now. He's been able to string performances together week after week after week, 3, 4, 5 races in a row. And let's not forget he had a mechanical failure in Zandvoort. Otherwise, he was on for a good result there as well. Is it now his to lose? Is it too soon to say that, or? He says he doesn't believe in momentum, but he's certainly got a fair whack of it, doesn't he?
I mean, he doesn't need to believe in it, but we can. I mean, it's not. Excuse me, it's not his to lose yet. But like you kind of said it, the momentum's his. He's got that in his favour now. It's, Piastri looked unflappable. Now he's been flapped.
Flapped.
Yes. Halfway through me saying that, I was like, it could come across a bit wrong there. But anyway, we're all adults, so giggle when you want. So now he just doesn't seem to have the car under him. He's not quite a Piastri I'm talking about. He's not quite getting the balance right. They said that throughout all Mexico. He just couldn't quite find the window. Lando Norris, the minute he jumped in the car, found the window, and it was all she wrote. I don't think, other than some sort of shenanigans at the start, I couldn't really see Lando not winning it. So yeah, I think he's coming into form at the right time. We say that as sports fans throughout. If you're Formula One or any other kind of sport fan, over a long season, your team has dips. Larry, I think you've got other sports you follow. You probably see it when it comes to team sports, especially in America. Like even the ice hockey, which I try and follow, they've got lots and lots of games. And they'll have a few games, like 5 or 6, where they don't really do well, they lose some points. And they always say it's all about getting your form at the right time. So you're like, my team could win 6 games at the start of the season, but then lose at the time that they should near the end of the season. And Lando's doing exactly what he should do. He's found his momentum at the right possible time. People are coming in saying it's to do with the whole, is Piastri getting, hindered by McLaren? But then that's people that have got a very short memory, because Piastri didn't have a good end to last season, and I think in the last couple of years it's been kind of similar. He kind of has this pattern. When it comes to near the end of the season, he kind of drops off a wee bit. Whether that's just in his head or whether the cars, like the circuits that he goes to near the end of the season, he doesn't quite like, I'm not 100% sure. But there is no conspiracy, in my head at least. So yeah, it's not quite his to lose yet, Lando Norris, but it's getting that way. I think if we have another one in the next race where it's pretty much the same, then I think, right, okay, now we can start having this conversation.
Yeah, and we spoke about this in the preview to the Mexico Grand Prix last week. Of course, we looked at the results in this run in this time last year, which of course was all the same races. USA, Texas, Mexico, Sao Paulo, Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. And that run of form for Oscar last year was 5th, 8th, 8th, 7th, 3rd in Qatar, okay, and 10th. It was a pretty poor run of form, and let's be fair, you can almost kind of scrub the Qatar off that, because it's the only car that worked in Qatar was the McLaren, really. Unless your name is Max Verstappen, but he doesn't count when you're trying to base things on car performance. James, what did you make of, I suppose, the race in general? It was, let's talk a little bit about just the manic nature of it. We can touch a little bit later on some of the more, let's say, controversial talking points, but as a generic race, this was a really good, potentially argument for best race of the season so far.
I think it's definitely up there, definitely top 5. The thing we found previously in like older Mexican Grand Prix races, that actually, despite the really long straights, DRS can be a bit tricky. I don't know if they're a bit more low downforce, and DRS isn't always that effective. But I think we found that it was this year, and I think the circuit should give us good racing, because I quite like that. The left, right, left in the first corner creates different angles of lines for drivers and everything. So I thought it was you expect that from Mexico. I think the other ones maybe just let us down. I thought this was a really interesting one. There was a little bit of strategy going on as well. It looked like it was going to be a one stop for pretty much the whole race, and then some people switched over to the 2 stops, gave a little bit of strategy. But I think even before then, there was still action up and down the field. I don't know if that's because of the tyre wear or whatever it was, but I thought it was a cracking race. And obviously, there was a fair amount of shenanigans, people cutting corners and going off, which is always good fun. But I thought it was a great race, interesting. Of course, at the front, it was pretty easy for Lando once he got away and got into some clear air. But I think it just showed that the cars are very close. I think even in qualifying, what was it? Piastri was only a tenth and a half off second or third, and ended up back in 8th. So I think we're just seeing the cars concertina, which is creating when the conditions work, we're creating good racing, and the cars are nice and close. And we saw Bearman, stick it up there and was able to hold on. So I was pleasantly surprised, because I think we've seen some stinkers in Mexico before, but this year, for whatever reason, it clicked, and we'll definitely take it. And I thought it was a great race.
Yeah, certainly was. Let's hope that it can kind of keep that form. And
Mm.
credit where it's due to Pirelli. I don't necessarily think they meant to do it, but their tires worked by not working. Sure, they didn't. They? It was a bit of a brain adjustment to think, oh, the soft is the one that's going to last
Mm.
longer. I think some people were pitting after like 15, 16 laps to get rid of their mediums, and you've got Lando Norris doing damn near half the race on his softs.
Mm.
Obviously, free air and all that, but the soft was definitely the tire of choice. Coming back to Lando there for a second, Larry, because obviously this was a really, really dominant weekend for him, and he has these in him. But once again, it was a dominant weekend where he missed an entire session. And you thought, okay, this is interesting. And we knew it was going to happen. There was, what, nine rookies? Well, rookies. There was nine full-time drivers had to give up their cars this
Mm.
weekend. And Max Verstappen and Lando Norris both did it. We reckon Oscar Piastri is not going to do his second one until Abu Dhabi. Make of that what you want. Take your tinfoil hats off before you do. But this was a statement of intent from Lando Norris to miss a whole session, be quick from minute one, dominate in qualifying, and then ran away with the race. What can be going through Lando's head right now, and then how does Oscar recover to that level because he was like this earlier in the season?
Yeah, we'll not touch on some things we might touch on later, but I think he seems to be in the right headspace at this point. Definitely a lot better off than he was, obviously, before the break and things like that. But just seeing how he reacted with missing that one. I think there was a stat, and I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's something like most of the drivers who miss an FP1 in quali tend to be, that was roughly like they said like 3/10 faster in quali. I'd have to look that up again. But I thought that was kind of, you know, counterintuitive. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but I mean, obviously it showed. His lap in quali was for me insane. I didn't expect him to. I think he was clear by 3/10, three over
Mm.
almost 4/10. So like I said, I think he's just got to keep it going. I think Coop's already, talked on it. It's getting that form in the right time, and it seems like he's done it.
Yeah, for sure. And here's hoping now the next race, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit towards the end. We'll have a full preview of Brazil coming next week because obviously there's a bit of a gap now between the races. But he certainly had the form in Brazil in the dry last year and looked like he was going to absolutely run clear of it. But if there's one thing you can guarantee, it's that you can't guarantee the weather in Brazil. And you wouldn't put, if I'd be putting my fiver on Max Verstappen in Brazil, even not knowing the weather, it's just what Brazil is like. But to your point, he's found the form when he needed to. Another kind of well, finding the form is maybe the wrong way to put it, Coops, but the FIA, we haven't really talked about them in a while because there hasn't really been enough action for them to warrant, uh, let's say, affecting anything. And they decided to change their minds on that this weekend in Mexico, and we'll talk again a little bit more about the individual decisions. But the big one, the big one that affected the race, affected the last couple of laps, and very well could affect the championship was the virtual safety car at the very end, the last couple of laps for Carlos Sainz. And the reason it would have affected the championship is Max Verstappen was within half a second of Charles Leclerc with 20 lap younger tires and DRS and was guaranteed to get past him. And Oscar Piastri was in the exact same position against Ollie Bearman and would almost certainly have gotten past him for fourth, earned himself an extra 2 points, and he would still be leading the championship by 1 point if that was the case. It wasn't. He's now behind by 1 point. Talk us through that virtual safety car and why the FIA threw it at that point, Coops.
Okay, so firstly, big thumbs up to the TV directors because we all got to see that at the time, didn't we? So anyway, so the Formula One realised that it wasn't shown live. They filed it out. Carlos Sainz, for whatever reason, lost the back of his car. I think he went over the curbs, lost the back of the Williams, fired it into the barriers and damaged the suspension. So he then saw the gap in the wall or the between the barriers and then tried to get the car behind there and unfortunately couldn't quite get it all the way through and then there was a fire broke out. So the FIA have came out and basically said that because there's a fire, there must be sensors in the car. There's hundreds of sensors. And it was a fire sensor triggered, which then automatically then means that the VSC gets called. I don't think it's automatic, but I think that's kind of how it works. Fire
It's
sensor VSC, it's kind
they
of
throw
linked.
it pretty immediately once they see that, I think.
So basically, it's a safety issue. The car was still on a live track. Yes, okay, it's a part of the track where, not, generally speaking, there's not a lot of action. But then people have said that online that that's not really about cars crash, but we're talking about a car that's just crashed at that bit. So, and we don't have those days back. Like I remember watching Formula One, in the kind of early 90s and stuff, where there was a car at the side of the track. It's just left there. It's on the wrong side of the barrier, just there, and you're flying round and every time, oh, there's that Benetton that ran out of fuel or whatever. We just don't do that anymore. It's the FIA probably rightly go on a kind of degree. They're more cautious when it comes to that. They'd rather throw a VSC or a safety car before anything else. Sometimes there's arguments that they're maybe being a bit too quick with it, a bit too slow, but they tend to go down that route. So that's basically what it is. Carlos Sainz binned it, couldn't get the car into a safe position. Then there was a fire, which triggered the VSC. Unfortunately, it was at the end where there was a couple of battles that you touched on that could have reshaped how we go into the next couple of rounds. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. If it was 10 points swing, maybe, but it's a point or two. Although you couldn't quote me, because we might be discussing Lando winning by like a point at the end of the season, and then okay, fine. At the moment, I don't think it will be, but that's basically what happened. Like I say, the TV directing didn't let us know that until after the race. So right up until the point that they actually put it out, there was a lot of conversations and conspiracy theories and discussions, because social media is very level-headed with these things. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Well, you've cleared that one up, and so anyone who still thinks that was a conspiracy, or that Michael Massey had somehow poofed back into the FIA room and decided, oh, I'm back, I'm not finished yet. That's not what happened. I think we can maybe talk and criticize on the actual TV direction, because I think it was pretty poor actually. I think it was better, and the only time they showed someone's girlfriend was Charles's girlfriend when he was on the podium. That's different. She's very clearly celebrating him with everyone from Ferrari, but there was no such shots. I think they've heard the complaints on that. The TV direction I still didn't think was particularly great. There was some overtakes and stuff like that again were relegated to the side boxes, which is a bit unfortunate. And then key moments. And the other key moment that I suppose they didn't show in terms of the virtual safety car, James, was when the marshals were on track and nearly got bowled over by Liam Lawson. And this is utterly unacceptable, because they're going through all this effort and they're throwing VSCs almost by automatic as soon as they see a sensor for a fire. 100% right call, no problem with that. They're completely right to do that. Doesn't matter what the outcome of the race was. But then you have them running onto turn one to pick up debris while Liam Lawson is coming out of the pits. How could that possibly have happened, and how did we not see that?
It feels a little bit like I don't want to say this is sort of like you hear like these like regimes that won't let anyone see anything negative about about their country or their organizations. It's a little bit like, oh, we can't show the organization or the FIA or anyone in disrepute. We're not really going to shut that down. Awful. I thought we'd been long. It's been a long time since marshals was allowed to run across the track. I thought there were some strict rules around. They stick to the like you say, we put a virtual safety car out when people are just semi behind a barrier. Do you know what I mean? It becomes very extremely militant about that. So yeah, crazy. And it's funny that again we didn't hear about it at all. I believe that happened quite early on, right? It was within the first 10 laps or so.
Yeah, and I remember visibly watching it, because the yellow flag marker was on the timing tower, and they at that exact same moment they flashed up the car tracker. And you could see the little light blue dot of someone in sector one, the first couple of corners, crawling. And I'm thinking to myself, he had just pitted. We'd just seen him pit. Did he come out with his tire off or something like that? Because his dot is going really slowly around there. You think there's a safety car coming. Lawson's broke down out of the pits. And that was it. That's all we saw of it until hours after the race, when social media picked up on it.
Yeah. because it must have been right at the start. Because wasn't it picking up Carlos Sainz's? There's some debris from him, and I know they've Lawson pitted pretty much. Or was it Lawson? It might have been Lawson's front.
I think it was Lawson's own wing, actually.
They
Yeah.
were involved, weren't they? So, and obviously it was double wave yellows, but it begs the question: what's the communication like for the marshals? Have they just been told go? Like, have they not got the driver trackers and all these sort of technology to help them? Because and also, I've only seen the stills. I haven't actually seen any of the footage of it. I don't know which way they're running. Are they running from the inside of turn one onto the track and out again, or have they come all the way from the other side? You know, that
it looked like they had come right across the grass. Yeah.
But either way, like they're still coming a long way. If there's debris on the track that marshals are being sent out to get, that has to be a virtual safety car, in the way that the F1 is at the moment. So, yeah, a bit of craziness. I'm sure. Hopefully, they'll look into it and decide. I think that apart from this, I think marshals on the track when it's a double wave is absolutely no. But they do. I think sometimes they can be a bit damned if they do, damned if they don't, because we want to see them racing. But they do seem to not make the right decisions most of the time. So, yeah, pretty crazy. And it's one of those things that you think, thank God for social media at times, because you actually do have to see these things, and they don't actually show you on the actual on the broadcast. So yeah, pretty scary stuff, because they were pretty close to him, and that could have been much, much worse. Similar to maybe Japan a couple of years ago with when the drivers complained about that aspect of it. Yeah, exactly. So I think back to I think Coops, you mentioned earlier about you'd see cars on the other side that just parked up on the side of the road. I remember watching, you go back on the F1 archive and watch a few of those old races, and you do you think, oh blimey, like I remember there was like the 1980s, 1990s, marshals literally trying to move a car on the inside of the hairpin at Monaco, while cars are going around the outside of them. You're just watching it thinking, I'm going to watch someone die here. Do you know what I mean? So we've obviously come a long way, but it shows that things are going to slip up and going to happen. But it could have been much, much worse. I'm happy it wasn't, but yeah, unfortunately we missed him. I think that's part of the things we need to be seeing,
For sure. And it's worth stating as well that we are not for a second blaming the marshals themselves or Liam Lawson. The marshals are volunteers, and they're only told to do what they're told to do. They follow their instructions through the radios. They were told, the track is now clear, go on and pick up that thing. We'll put a double wave yellows, but everybody should be on the other side of the circuit by now. It's a really short circuit, so maybe a VSC should have been necessary, and I think VSC should be called anytime anybody needs to go on track, if I'm not wrong. That should be the thing. It wasn't. We don't know why. I think Lawson did a good job. He was really right to call them out, and I feel sorry for the marshals, but I think it's worth pointing out that the marshals don't deserve any blame for that. That is not their fault. That is a wider problem with the FIA. So
yeah,
thankfully...
Sorry, just to jump in, I think the FIA, whoever made the call, forgot that Lawson was in the pits, was basically what it was.
So, yes.
And I've just, while you were talking, weirdly, it just popped up, like, the full radio from Liam Lawson to the pit when it happened. So he said, "What the F? Oh my God, are you kidding me? Did you see that? Oh my God." And the reply was, "Well done for avoiding them."
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wasn't like, sometimes it could look closer than it was. And he just added, "I could have effing killed them, mate." And I think he retired a couple of laps later, but yeah, it was a close one. I think the closest other than that was it like the last lap in, I want to say Baku? Was it where they had the photographers at the end of the pit lane, or was it Canada or something?
Ocon came into the pit lane
the last lap,
Crofty's shouting, there's photographers at the bottom of the pit lane, so that caused a few dramas. But yeah, these things happen, and
it does make you wonder, though, are the people in charge of the rules of Formula One not Formula One fans? Because they sometimes seem to forget how that you can take a pit stop on the last lap, or that just because 19 of the cars are on one side of the track, where's the 20th car? If it hasn't retired yet, it must be there somewhere. And at this point, it was in the pits and came back out. No, we're happy nobody was hurt, but we shouldn't have to wait for someone to get hurt for something to change. And I hope that this, wakes somebody up in the FIA office, because, I mean, the next couple of tracks, like they're not. Apart from like Qatar and Abu Dhabi, but like Sao Paulo and Vegas, there's not exactly a million miles of runoff in either of them. Like Sao Paulo obviously has grass and gravel, but there's plenty of space for the people to be on track there. And Vegas is a street track. Either they're on the track or they're not on the track. There is no in between in that. So they really need to wake up and cop that on. I'm sure that will, I hope it isn't, but I'm sure it might be a talking point between now and the end of the season. Bring it back then just to the championship, because I'm sure, and there will be questions, Larry, I'll come to you on this, because we all now know that they call the VSC correctly, but it did still influence the championship, and there's been talk on how, Piastri is losing his form, and maybe the pressure of being the hunted was starting to get to him. I don't know how much I buy that. Lando Norris has always seemed to be more comfortable doing the hunting than being the hunted. Is that going to swing back the other way now? Lando is now in charge. And Max, even though he's lost a chunk of points to Lando himself, is actually 4 points closer to the lead of the championship because that's a bit weird. So, where do you see this story going next? And if you were Lando, would you rather be now in this position to be hunted rather than being the hunter?
I think every driver that, at least that I've seen, has been asked this always says, I think Fernando said it the other day when they were asking him about it. I'd rather be up front. I think anybody would rather be up front, whether it's 1 point, 20 points, 10 points. I think you always want to be in the lead. In Formula One, it's swimming with sharks. So that's definitely a precarious place to be. But I still think that's where he wants to be. That's where I would want to be. Um, but yeah, the race itself for me was a great kind of recap of the season so far. There was a lot of weird things that happened, but you did see the front runners for this season doing front runner things.
Hmm.
Yeah, you had Max driving. Um, I think, in my opinion, fairly well. That was a well-run race for him in Red Bull. Um, Again, like you mentioned with the tire compounds, that threw me off. I don't know all the ins and outs, technical stuff, but it seems like to me the soft shouldn't have outlasted a medium on that stint, but it did. It allowed him to make some. I don't even remember. I think in 6 laps he made up 7 seconds or something like that. It was ridiculous at the end of the stint. So yeah, I think going forward it's still going to be tight with those three. Um, I was going to pick. I'll pick later. But I definitely think Piastri is now in a situation where he really has to, I guess, do what he's kind of sort of known for, being that new Iceman and trying to just, get in either inside or outside of how you want to look at it of his own head and go to work. Same thing with Max. I mean, Max is a freak of nature. He's going to do what he wants and still probably end up winning. So who knows? But yeah, but Lando, like I said, I think he's right where he wants to be. Some of his after race quotes and things like that he had said with all the other stuff that was going on, it made me he earned a couple more points in my book, how he handled that and how he seemed to handle the whole weekend. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's come up a couple of times actually. Is this new and improved fiery Lando Norris kind of since Singapore when he effectively quoted Ayrton Senna to say, "I went for a gap. If you don't go for the gap, you're not a Formula One driver." And yeah, he seems cool as a cucumber. Again, there's been talk about, okay, was he ever really in a chance of winning the championship last year? No, probably not. But he certainly experienced the scrutiny of not winning the championship last year. I think that's very fair to say because all the hype was around him, an insane amount of noise around him. That might be the British press element of it. There might be a certain level of that. The British press are famously both incredibly fair and incredibly harsh to their drivers, depending on what step of the podium they stand on. But I think Lando just has that little bit more experience, and maybe Oscar is crumbling is maybe the wrong word because he was in this exact same position last year in terms of this run into the end of the season. Just the tracks didn't suit him for one reason or another. But I think Lando has put his head right compared to this year, and I just don't think he's worried about Max. I think in his mind he's thinking, I can beat Oscar. I will beat Oscar. I'm beating Oscar. Let's move on then and talk about our individual favorite moments of the race. Apart from the Lando winning, which is definitely my favorite part of the race by the biggest margin of the season so far, 30.3 seconds was his winning distance. I think he's broken his own record on that one. So really, really impressive display. But I am going to go with Ollie Bearman. What a result, Coops. This was Haas's joint best result ever. Matches, I think it was Grosjean in Austria, was it, in 2018, who also finished fourth at the time. And he was this close to a podium. Incredible drive. And he was there on pure pace. It was a brilliant, brilliant drive. Thoroughly deserved driver of the day. I think he got the best part of like 45% of the vote for driver of the day, and rightly so. You wonder who everybody else is voting for. Like, what race were you watching if you didn't think Ollie Bearman was driver of the day for that race? But what did you make of Ollie, and what did Ferrari make of Ollie as well after that one?
Well, he's certainly put himself in the frame now. Hamilton's experiment isn't quite working, and they need something for the future. So, yeah, Ferrari will definitely be keeping a wee eye on Ollie, but yeah, you can't. There's not much to say other than it was just a good performance. It was just yeah, he got there and he got there on merit and he got there on pace. It was unfortunate he didn't quite have the pace to get the podium. I think regardless, even with the kind of extra pit stop that dropped him down behind Max, I think Max was always going to get the podium the way things kind of shaked out. And that's kind of what you want to do in those situations. You maximise your opportunities for most of them, especially the smaller the teams. And I mean, let's face it, Haas are the smallest team on the grid in terms of personnel and everything to do with them. They are the smallest. You maximise your opportunity. They've got a good, solid car. They've managed to get rid of Gunter Steiner, who was looking for more the pop star chat rather than actually dealing with the technical side. And he's got a team around him that are just quietly getting on with their business. And he's someone who's got a very good and very solid long career within Formula One. Still, my controversial moment. Don't know if he's quite at the point where we could think he's a future champion, but that could change. I didn't think that Lando Norris was somebody that could be a future champion when he first arrived in Formula One. Of course, that's now changing.
To be fair, you said that in April as well.
I did indeed, yes. But things change very quickly in the world of sport. So, yeah, I think he's put some good solid foundation in there, especially for a better drive or a more competitive drive, not a better drive. That's a disservice to Haas. And you can't really fault what he did at the race yesterday.
Yep, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, the future champion is obviously a tough one to call, but I think Ferrari have at least done things properly with Ollie by, they've helped him get this opportunity. They put him in the car last year and he was ready for it in Saudi, and a really good performance in Saudi last year. That was a way to everything. But actually, Ayuka Matsu said that wasn't the moment they decided to put him in the Haas. It was when he actually tested the Haas. And he was given his run program and he did everything on the run program, and then his feedback apparently was just on a level of like Ocon. They said they were really impressed with his feedback and the suggestions that he was making to change and improve the car, which is what they are looking for in these young driver tests. They're not looking for you to Kimi Antonelli yourself into the barrier of Parabolica. He was lucky he already kind of had a contract at that point. But they're looking for that feedback. They're looking to know that if we're going to give you a piece of crap, can you make it better? And he did that, and fair play to him. And it's a good time for him to kind of be stepping up, because let's be honest, Lewis Hamilton is not going to be in that Ferrari forever, whether he wins 8, 10 or no championships with them. And I think it's fair to say that Ollie might be next on the rung for that Ferrari seat. James, what is your standout moment of the Mexico Grand Prix?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go for the turn one. I thought there was multifaceted of that turn one this week. I thought one thing with Lando's race, I thought he probably would have had the pace to get faster the Ferraris anyway. But if he could not get jumped at the start, he's drafting everyone down to the first corner. We know how long the first towards the first corner is in Mexico.
A whole kilometer, yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like. And then seeing some of the replays, seeing Lewis Hamilton drafting up behind the overspeed was crazy, and obviously he just didn't have anywhere to go. So I think it was key for Lando to stay ahead of the pack. I thought he got a great start. We've seen before, last year he struggled to keep places at the start. But I thought he got away really well, positioned his car really well. And then I think he was 1.6 seconds ahead at the end of the first lap. And that really set him up for success. But then we saw a great 4 wide moment into the first corner with, was it 3 wide with the 2 Ferraris, and Verstappen being his ever optimistic self going around the outside and then blaming others. But he did some fantastic drifting to keep out of the barriers.
Close. He was
so
did you
close.
watch the replay from his onboard? I watched that replay on like lap 60 and I thought, he's definitely crashed 60 laps ago, but he didn't.
So you're going to see him full lock, keeps it going. But and I think obviously then Leclerc got ahead, but I think that set up a little bit of mischief. Leclerc then got ahead of of Hamilton when Hamilton really probably should have been second. That obviously pushed him back into the pack, and then we saw later on with Verstappen and then what happened there. But I think the first three corners in Mexico, if that's the three corners, yeah, I think it sets up a really nice start. The way it can, everyone's barreling down there. We've seen a few crashes in the last couple of years. I know Yuki Tsunoda has had a couple of big ones, Perez in the past as well. It's quite wide and it narrows. I think it creates quite a nice concertina effect. And we saw Piastri lose some places, had to gain back some places. We saw George lose some places. I think Antonelli also went wide, so it just caused a bit of occasion. I think it set up the race for Lando Norris disappearing into the distance, which was good for him, but it also created a bit of tension between the drivers. I know George was straight on the radio about people letting him, not letting him through, and we'll touch on his race as well. So I think it set us up for a nice reshuffled the pack a little bit, but then also got some of the drivers riled up, which we knew was going to create some action later on. So I think it just set us up really nicely for what we saw as a cracking race.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was, I think we were lucky that nobody actually crashed. I mean, the Perez one sticks in my mind every year, and it was such a plane crash that they put it in the Formula One movie this year. And they actually made it a plot point as such in the race. It was a good one, and it obviously led to a lot of drama that ran throughout the rest of the race because it wasn't like lap one, but it was lap two, wasn't it? Where Max and Lewis decided that they wanted to be lawnmowers, not Formula One drivers, and took to the runoff again. Both of them. I think there was calls for both of them to get a penalty. Somehow Max scraped through on one.
We can talk about that later as well. I was furious.
Charles arguably should have given a place back to Lewis on lap one, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He gave it back to Lando, didn't he? Went straight through Lando and moved it out of the way.
Yeah.
Max went off the track and got through loads of them and didn't, I think, give enough places back. It was a bit mad. The fact that nobody ended up in the barrier was a bit of a miracle.
And I even think there was a few people at the back that I think when we saw Sainz is on board with him and colliding with Lawson, I think both of those went off. But then there was also another car in between them all going off. So obviously that runoff area does help. If you can keep it on the track, it's going to be quicker than keep it in a straight line. It's going to be quicker than the corners. So it's always going to create a bit of chaos.
I have here that like Lance Stroll span at the four.
Oh yeah.
Five, at turn 6, the double right-hander, the 6-7, he spun there. I think he just stopped turning and the car kept going. He just strolled himself around. Oscar Piastri had a rubbish start, was down to 9th behind Yuki Tsunoda. Despite the fact that Yuki started on mediums and Oscar was on soft. It was a good start from Yuki. It was a bad start, but yeah, George immediately complaining about Max. And then Lawson and Sainz had a moment as well in there. And Lawson pitted almost immediately. So it was a bit manic, but it certainly led to some drama, and that was another thing the FIA got involved in. And this possibly brings us on to your moment, Larry, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it does. I I I think I've told you guys way back. I've been a Ferrari fan my whole life. So this race started. I had the highest hopes I've had in a while. I was excited. I was ready to go. And then lap one happened, and I wasn't as excited. I think it took till, I don't know, it might have been 10 or so laps in when they finally, or even more, when they finally gave the penalty. I can't remember when it came. But it was
He
definitely
was
a little later.
noted on lap 8 was Lewis, under investigation on lap 9, and then it was until lap 16 that he was given the penalty.
Yeah. So like I said, I watch all different there are different series. So the fact that a decision was made, I guess, is good. But I've seen, them wait till after the race and then, so yeah, that's a whole other. But anyway, the fact that for me, that the penalty was given the way it was, I didn't understand it initially. It makes more sense now because I had initially thought it was just for, well, I can't remember the verbiage, disobeying the race director's
Yeah, he
orders.
didn't rejoin properly into the slip road.
Yeah, which that slip road is for bicycles. That's the smallest slip road I've ever seen.
And also you enter the track at a 90-degree angle to the track. Didn't seem
There's no way anybody's successfully turning onto that slip road.
Yeah.
No.
So I was confused because that's kind of what I thought the penalty was for. And then when I saw that there was two separate, notes that it was that now it was gaining an advantage off track, which again, I get it, but at the same time, you go back and watch the feed or even just watch the telemetry on the other drivers. They were battling while Lewis was doing his lawnmower service. So they're naturally going to go slower.
Mm.
You know, and I get that, I guess technically that is an advantage, but it's like if you watch him, he slows down, he does everything, and then he gets on the grass. He's got to hit the gas, otherwise he's going to go sideways and hit that wall anyway. So at least I don't know. I drive police cars, not race cars. I don't know, but that's how I would do it. So, but you know, so it was what it was. But I was actually, for me, thoroughly impressed. And I say this with I have never been a Lewis fan, but I am a Ferrari fan, and I think that outweighs it. So I think he handled it well. His radio traffic, he handled it like I expected him to, but his driving was pretty good. Like I said, I think for me it was the tire compound offsets again. I don't know if it's just the low drag, the low density air. I assumed Ferrari was on the right strategy,
Mm.
going soft first, mediums later, and then Lewis even did a two stop,
Mm.
which, I was surprised, but it worked out.
I think everybody except Lando and Charles did a two-stop.
Yeah.
I think they were the only two who didn't two-stop because they each had a whole track of clear air in front of them. So
Verstappen
different sort
did
of
two
setup.
stop.
Verstappen
Yeah.
two-stop. Verstappen kind of
Just
led the
one
way
stop.
on the two stops, really, didn't he?
No, he was only one. I think he only did one. Because he did long
No,
mediums
because
and then
Yeah.
no, because he caught up. His tires were about 20 laps younger than Charles's when he was catching up at the end. I think he led on the two stops. Anyway, sorry, Larry.
Oh, I thought no, yeah. But yeah, I think, like I said, it was a I guess it wasn't a standout when you have Bearman and other drivers doing what they did, but I think for me it was a really good drive, for Lewis. Also for Charles, I think he did kind of what he's sort of been known for lately, and I wouldn't necessarily call him the tire whisperer. The tires seemed fine, but the fuel whisperer, he was probably running pretty low by that point. But yeah, like I said, I thought that was for me, that was, I guess, a foot in mouth moment, because like I said, I've never really been a Lewis fan, but that was actually a pretty good drive, so I can't complain.
Yeah, it certainly was. Lewis finished eighth, if I'm not wrong, but when he came out after that 10-second stop, the grid was still pretty condensed. He came out, if I'm not wrong, in like 12th. I had it there. I think he came back out in 12th or 13th.
He was 13th, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite far down when he came back. Yeah, he was passing Albon for 12th. Lewis Hamilton came back out 18th. So yeah, and he had to overtake some quick cars. I mean, the Haas's were not slow. Gabriel Bortoleto got up into the points, so I think just the Ferrari engines were pretty good actually in Mexico, which we saw last year as well. Obviously, they were first and third. That it seems to work a little bit more efficiently in the poor air, in the thin air. Poor air is the wrong term. In the thin air, you saw like the Williams stuff like that. Some of the other Mercedes powered cars had to cut half the damn bodywork off to make the cars cool themselves. Williams had about 20 different holes in the side pod to try and cool the engine down. The Ferrari didn't seem to need to do anything of the sort. The car probably just combusts a bit better. I don't know the technical terms of it, but yeah, he seemed to have a decent bit of power, and I agree. I think it was a decent recovery to eighth. Where would he have finished otherwise? I think Max probably would have caught him anyway for the podium.
Yeah.
But I think the big winner on the two big winners on Lewis's penalty were Ollie Bearman and Oscar Piastri. I don't think either of them would have been ahead of it. I think Lewis probably would have finished fourth without that penalty. And actually, even as it is, he finished 56 seconds off the pace off Lando, and he was 16 seconds off Ollie. So add in overtakes and getting slowed down. Ollie was pretty much in clear air for most of the race. I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect that Lewis probably would have finished ahead of Ollie. Coops, what was your highlight moment of the race, if there's any left that we didn't talk about?
Well, two of you took the two I had in my head, so I'm not impressed. So I'm going to go with Russell and his team and Antonelli and the radio conversations, because the radio conversations were actually quite funny. The more angry that that Russell got, the funnier he seemed to get, at least in my head anyway. But yeah, the pit wall, when it came to Russell and Antonelli, really did kind of drop the ball a wee bit. They kind of borrowed Ferrari's strategy rule book. Actually, just while I remember, I don't know if any of you noticed in the TV coverage, there was a Ferrari fan with a sign that said Hamilton, Leclerc, and Lewis, ignore the strategy calls from the Ferrari pit wall or something like that. It's really funny. I was like, oh, that's good. Anyway, so yeah, Russell had better pace than Antonelli. He called them and said, I've got better pace. They kind of fumbled it and said it, and he got more and more angry. And then they said, right, switch positions. He kind of said something along the lines of, oh, fantastic, slightly sarcastic, because he was 5 laps. He should have been done 5
Did he
laps
say at one
before.
point, I've a McLaren up my ass, do you want me to let him pass too? And the pit said, no, thank you. He goes, okay, just checking. He was getting properly thick with them.
Because he had Piastri right up his gearbox. He had a slow teammate in front of him. He's trying to say, look, let me in front. And they're going, yeah, but your temperatures are a bit high.
Yeah,
Could you maybe watch what you're doing with your temperatures? And he's like, what do you want me to do? And then I think at one point the pit wall came back and says he's like he made his snippy comment. He turned around and said, well, we kind of need breaks at the end of the race as well. So they were bickering like siblings. They eventually did what he asked. It came across a wee bit like the mum or the dad just couldn't be bothered with them arguing. He went, just do it. Just do what he says and shut him up. And then they switched him back. But yeah, it was a bit of a situation that, in all honesty, had no need to happen. It made us laugh. I thought it was quite funny. But it was something that probably shouldn't have happened. They should have just looked and went, right, okay, jump through. We'll sort it near the end. Let Kimmy know, look, he's going to pass you. We'll see how things go. But if he doesn't get where he needs to go, we'll swap his back. And then that's it. But no, they did what they did, and more power to them, because it meant I could talk about it for 5.5 minutes.
I enjoy that one too. I like when George gets a bit feisty. I think I'm probably a bigger George Russell fan than some others. I don't quite get why people dislike him, but I love that he has now leaned into the Woody from Toy Story memes. Did you see that in Austin? I thought that was absolutely hilarious and top drawer to him. I think he was well within his rights to be pissed off. I think it was just great. It was even like on commentary they were saying, like Crofty said, they've let him through. They're 5 laps too late. And as a result, he couldn't disappear because his tires were overheating, exactly what they were complaining about. His tires were cooked by that point, so obviously he couldn't go and attack Bearman. I don't think a podium was on. I think that was ambitious from him, but there was certainly more. Like they're in the fight for the championship. Like Mercedes seems to have completely given up this year entirely, but they are still mathematically in for second place. They're now a point behind Ferrari, which they wouldn't have been if they'd have let George through sooner and he'd have had the tires to catch Bearman or Piastri, whoever. Make of that what you will. But they're third in the champ. They've been second in the championship for a while, and Ferrari have now caught them. And Red Bull are only 9 behind.
Like the thing you've just said there was like Max Verstappen when they asked about something, he turned around and said, "Well, if my mum had balls, she would be my dad." It's it's like anything like what ifs in sport. Just quickly, Larry, is your missus just slickly telling you that she likes the English accent? It's kind of other side of the house. What's that?
that probably has something to do with it. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, no, it was. She's very into the drama, let's say, and yeah, she's with me. She partakes. She sits next to me while we watch. But yeah, she actually put her phone down and started watching when she heard all the radio traffic.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, it was the drama that she wanted to watch at that point. Of course it was, yeah.
Right, let's move on and answer a couple of questions, or in fact, answer a couple of comments that we got over the race weekend. We put a question up on our socials to say, is the championship fight now between Lando and Oscar? And we got some absolutely fantastic responses. I'll read out a couple of them, and a couple of them were questions that we can go into in a little bit more detail. So Julius, apologies if I pronounced that wrong. So I'm guessing you're Dutch, mate, with the flag in your profile picture. You said delusional Max fan here. I still think the fight is a 3-way battle. Mathematically, you're absolutely correct. And if it was anyone other than Max Verstappen, I'd say you have a hope. But it's Max Verstappen. He could be leading in after next. He could very nearly be leading next week in Brazil if it all goes his way. So it is. I think it's still fair to say it's a 3-way battle. Dan says on TikTok, the real question is, has Oscar given up or has he been told to give up? This is a common theme because there's a few, everyone's got their tinfoil hats out. Nicholas said on our Facebook post, Max is fighting Norris and Piastri, Norris is fighting Max and Piastri, Piastri is fighting McLaren and Norris. You know, Craig says yes, always has been between Lando and Oscar. I mean, yes, Max disagrees. He thinks it's between Lando and Matt. Max Greenfield on Facebook says no, it's between Lando and Max. Three-way title fight. Elaine says McLaren will shoot themselves and the Kleenex kid in the foot, and Max will slide on for World Drivers' Championship number 5th. And I mean, I think that there's a fair few more comments on that. I don't get the Kleenex kid thing. Maybe someone could explain that to me in the chat. And last one on this, because I think this is kind of just the theme after this one. McLaren will now order Oscar to stay behind Lando for the rest of the championship to maximize his chances of winning it. That's from Kevin. So thank you. There's a fair few more comments here that I haven't read out there, but thank you all very, very much for your comments. It's great that you all got involved in that. And I have to say, I agree with anybody who said it's still a three-way fight, and anybody who thinks that McLaren are going to stop Lando is ludicrous. Let's just be honest. It might make Zach Brown's marketing plan a little bit easier, but Lando's on form. It's as simple as that. James, what do you think? What do you think? Is it still a three-way fight, or is it now between Lando and Oscar, as we put up on our posts?
No, I still think it is a three-way, but I think it's just because of Max Verstappen. I think I'm looking at it's 46 points now. I know we've got 2 sprint races and 4 races still to go. That's still a decent amount of points. And I think we've
36 between Max and Lando now.
Was it 36? Sorry, that's my bad maths. Thank you very much. So that's even, that's even closer. And I think that we've seen actually how quickly things can turn around. Max equaled the same amount before Mexico, had the same amount of points as McLaren did in the previous 4 races. So it can turn around at any point. I don't think we've still got 6 opportunities to get points. We've seen how fantastic Max is at sprint weekends. He seems to dominate those races over the field. And I think if anyone else, I think they say probably not. But I think Verstappen can do it. And I think for the 2 McLarens, they're going into it. It's basically a new season. They've got a 4-6 race season. If you're going to call the sprint races, they're basically equal on points. There's 1 point between them. They're in a completely new championship. Verstappen's coming from behind, trying to catch them up. But I very much still think it's a three-way fight. And I don't know. I think there's all this stuff. I don't think it's not a secret that Lando Norris has been at this team for a very long time, and that he's built up those relationships. We've seen that in the past with, I'm going to say like Hakkinen and Coulthard back in McLaren. Hakkinen was there for McLaren for years. Coulthard came in, and there was that favour. But do I think for a second they treat them any differently? No. And also, I don't think for a second Piastri would take having to, if they told him, by the way, it's Lando Championship, that would be coming out. He's definitely not going to be keeping that secret. So I think it's going to be a fantastic battle, but it could still go any way. Lots of points still to come. I think it's going to be a cracking race. I'm going to be cracking last four race weekend. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I think.
Can I just jump in quickly when you were talking about Lando not winning? So the stat that I found online. Whenever McLaren have won in Mexico, the race winner has not won the championship that year. 1969, race winner Danny Hulme, champion Jackie Stewart. 1988, race winner Alain Prost, champion Ayrton Senna. And then it happened again in 1989. Ayrton Senna won it, champion Alain Prost. Race winner this year, Lando Norris, champion. According to the rumours, according to the superstitions and the records, not Lando Norris. So anyway, I put that onto the Slack, and it really did annoy a couple of people, especially the Lando fans, because they were really happy, and then I found it this morning. They were like, "But why?" So there you go.
It's an interesting one. I love those sorts of things. It was something about like the Australian Grand Prix. At almost every single championship, whoever wins the Australian Grand Prix wins the championship.
There was like a streak of like 14 years when it was that, but then it was sort of like, well, if you win the Australian, you've probably got a good car at the start.
Yes,
so you've probably got the best car, so you're probably going to win it. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, that's quite a good streak. Coops, I think those are too far apart. Do you know what I mean? I can see why that annoyed people. Bringing out 1960s for this year's championship.
The last time before this week that McLaren won in Mexico was 1990, if I'm not wrong. Like they were all ranting about that. Oh, it's our first win in Mexico in 30 years. Never mind the fact that it wasn't on the calendar for about 26
About
of
20,
those 30
yeah.
years.
So
It
it's only
doesn't
been back for
really
about
count.
10. Another wee bit of trivia. So Lando Norris has got pole and won 3 races in his career. He's never got the Grand Slam, as they say, which is the fastest lap. So the 3 races are Singapore 24, Abu Dhabi 24, and Mexico this year. Can any of you guys actually tell me which driver got the fastest lap in any of those 3 races?
Oh, those ones.
So
Oh, in
Singapore
any of those
2024.
races? No, I can tell you got the fastest lap in Mexico.
Oh, for goodness sake, it was
It
yesterday.
was George Russell.
I'm gonna say Lewis Hamilton, Abu Dhabi 2024.
No, but nearly.
Damn.
Abu Dhabi 24 is somebody you will not think of. Singapore 24, Andy.
Oh, Daniel Ricciardo.
There you go,
Oh, I
Danny.
should know that.
Right.
I was there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I
But
should have known that one.
the Abu Dhabi one's a curveball because I don't think
Ooh.
he'll get it.
Or was it Bottas?
No.
Oh. Is it Perez? No, he's gone by then.
Was it Max Verstappen?
No, it's not a curveball. Come on. That's a fastball.
Well, there was
That
one.
one.
It was the point given for it?
Uh,
No, it was last year.
that was
Yeah,
last
was,
year.
was the point given for it?
No,
As
because
in, were they in the top 10?
well, go by the
Ooh.
driver, probably
Yeah.
not. But
That's a great shout.
There you go. I've eliminated half the grid.
Was it Stroll?
no, not that bad.
Not that bad. Okay.
Trying to think
Gasly.
what-
Okay, right. So we're going to be here all night. So one more guess each.
Hmm.
Guan
Zhou.
Yu Zhou. Oh, I said
Right.
it first. Come on.
Right. Okay. So James, you get Joe. Sean.
Yeah.
I said Joe as well.
Right, okay, Joe. Larry, what do you think? Stop googling it.
I'm gonna go with Albon.
Nope.
Oscar
It
shout.
was Magnussen.
Ah.
Damn
There
it.
you go. I
That's
saw
why I
that.
went. That's why I went Bottas. I thought, well, he's not in Formula One anymore. That'd be the shout.
Yeah.
I didn't think about Magnussen.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm like, I'm going to have to ask the panel, especially when we
Yeah.
had the 4 of us. So there you go. He's all got it wrong. But anyway, but somebody's going to get bragging rights when we talk
Hey.
about the predictions. By the way,
But we had fun doing it.
I've just read them back.
We'll move on to that now in a second. We'll finish up the race, but there was one final question that came in. I think it just ties it all in nicely. Was this Lando Norris's most complete race yet? Larry, I'll go to you on this one. In his career, it's his 10th victory, it's his 14th pole. All of his victories and all of his pole positions have all come at different tracks, which is an odd and unique streak to Lando. Was this his best weekend, I think is the right way to say it, but certainly race. Was this his most complete weekend in Formula One?
I think, yeah, changing it, I definitely think it was probably his most complete weekend. Even missing that first session. Like I said, I think he just was able to silence his own internal critics, maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know if necessarily, obviously the fans weren't very friendly, but I think he was able to get everything he needed done through the weekend. Like I said, that quali lap was still one of the most perfect laps I've seen at that track. And I think even James said earlier that, I love the track layout because it has the different line options. Watching it was him and Leclerc, they were doing side by side or overlay. That was, I mean, they were taking, I wouldn't say drastically different lines, but they were taking different lines, and it still came together with him 3/10 over, or under. But yeah, so I think it was probably one of the best weekends I think he could, but definitely the best weekend he could have had in the circumstances.
For sure. I think weekend is the best way to put it, because especially when you consider that he missed free practice, which is the second time this season. He's given up his car twice this season, like they have to. Every driver has to give up their car at least twice throughout the season for young drivers. It's supposed to be young drivers, but officially it's rookies who've completed less than 3 Grand Prix weekends. Which is an odd quirk that meant that the likes of like RB and Haas and Kimi Antonelli didn't have to give up theirs at all, because they just did their rookie tests. Sorry, anyway, it doesn't really matter. He has given up his car twice and he dominated both weekends. I think the other one was Austria, if I'm not wrong. He gave up his car in Austria and he won in Austria. So whatever way Alex Palou is driving that car, or was it Alex Palou? No, it wasn't Alex Palou.
It's Pat, it's
Pato
Pato. It
was.
was.
Pato
Pato
Award. Sorry,
Award.
Alex Palou was suing them.
No,
Um,
no, he's not suing. McLaren are
getting
suing them
Yeah.
because for loss of
for
money.
loss of
It's the other way around there.
Yeah, because he went on to be champion like twice more, didn't he, with Chip Ganassi?
Yeah.
But yes, so whatever way Pato Ward is setting up that car, maybe he deserves a shot in Formula One because he certainly seems to know how to make Lando's car go faster. But there we go. Let's finish up with mine and Coops' predictions for this weekend. I have them here in front of me. Are you ready?
Oh yes, yes.
Pole
I've got
pole
scribbles
position.
for them as well.
Pole position. You said
Oscar Piastri.
Oscar Piastri, and you were a little bit off on that one. He nearly got knocked out in Q2.
Shh.
I, on the other hand, said Lando Norris.
You didn't.
Where's my ding noise? What do we go with then? The top three. So we go in reverse order. Coops, you said
Oscar Piastri.
Lando in second, and I think you might have passed out before you did this. You said Hamilton was going to win the race.
Yes, I did. Right.
Yeah. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Third place, Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
Second place, this was my vibey shout, Charles Leclerc.
Mm-hmm.
First place, Lando Norris.
Oh my God, we're on for a clean sweep here. I think you've got the clean because the crazy predictions are always going to be. That's insane. Well played.
And my wild one there was Charles in second. That was my wild shout there. I didn't see that coming at all.
No. Your wild one was
No,
not
that was my
Your
wild one. That was my wild shout in the podium. But my actual wild shout was a Mercedes double DNF.
I got to bring you back to reality ever so slightly. I mean, I'm stratospherically away. I spent every other prediction that I do. So
I think if George had been not given the place, he might have just bashed Kimi off the road. So they were aligned with each other for it to happen. But Coops, your wild shout, it was not a bad one actually. Bortoletto 8th or above. He finished 10th.
Yeah.
After some good racing, he fought his way up to 10th. And deserved his final point.
At this point now, you're just giving me the award for participating. I mean, give me peace.
No. You definitely don't get even a participation award for any of those predictions. There we go. That was our.
For anyone who is international listeners, at that last wee sentence, I became very Scottish. I do apologise.
It happens.
It keeps in every so often.
Even when you get rid of the beard, you can take the beard out of the Scotsman.
Can't take the iron brew out of the Scotsman.
There you go. I think I'm going to give up. I'm not predicting anything else for the rest of the season now because I don't think I'll ever top actually predicting the podium correctly before a single wheel had been turned in anger in the race. Yeah. So I'm happy with that. We will, of course, be back. We're going to finish up now. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you for all your questions as well. It was brilliant engagement on our socials this weekend. Thank you very, very much for that. We appreciate all of your questions. If we didn't get to them, we apologize, but we did try to reply to as many of them as we could on the socials. Do follow us on all socials to be involved for future podcasts, to share your opinions with us. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, X and Threads at JoinEF1. You find us on TikTok at EF1 Official. And you find us on YouTube, Everything F1, all one word. Head over there, hit subscribe as well while you're there, and you'll be in with the chance to win our Lego Speed Champion set when we hit 500 subscribers. That'll do it for this. We will be back next week with our predictions and our preview for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Of course, there is a week off now. No Formula One this weekend, I'm afraid. We'll have to just, have a normal weekend. But at least Brazil will be at a reasonable time for us again on this side of the pond. Larry, I don't know how your times work. It's probably not too bad though. Brazil isn't too far removed from you over there, is it?
Where I'm at, kind of, we're more west.
You're west. It's Eastern time, isn't it?
Yeah. What time is it for you? The race next week?
It's only like 3 hours behind, I think.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I think.
Okay, so we're 7 behind you.
So it's a morning race for you then, is Brazil.
Yeah.
It's not a stupidly early morning race. It's early breakfast kind of thing. It's not too bad.
It's not going to be Vegas.
Is fine for me. So
Vegas works for you. Yeah. We'll be back next week.
You're the only person in the world, Larry, where it's good.
Thank you very much to my panel for joining me. Thank you as always, Coops.
Thank you.
And thank you to James and Larry. Great to have you back on. Hope to see you again in the coming weeks as we
Thank you very
get
much.
ready for the run in for the Formula One Championship. And it's certainly on. We definitely have a three-way fight for the championship now. Lando Norris has taken the lead by 1 point after a dominant weekend in Mexico. We've been Everything F1. Thank you very much. We'll chat to you next week to preview Brazil. Bye now.
Bye.